Hello, fellow teachers. It's Joan from Teach and Thrive. And today we're going to talk about making social studies relevant for teens. I don't know if you work in a very different area or school than I do, but my experience is that I get a smattering of kids who just love history. They are interested, they like it, and all the rest who really don't. So how do we make old dead guys come alive? That's the challenge. And it really is a huge challenge. We work so hard on lessons and trying to be engaging and increase their skills. And most of them are checked out many times. So we're going to talk about 3 ways today. Here we go. The first is to connect history to the 21st century when they're actually alive, connected to things that they know about, that they've lived, and that they have some interest in. So, an example of this, I'm making this video in the fall of 2020, and we've had several major things happening this year, and one of them is the pandemic. One way to tie earlier history with modern day history is if you're a U.S. history teacher, when you're doing the early 20th century, you can compare and contrast the flu epidemic to the virus epidemic that happened this year. Some other things you can do with the pandemic. That sounds strange, but anyway, document analysis, very important skill for students to learn. Well, we've gotten a lot of information from all different places. What's reliable and what's not? Document analysis of different speeches and tweets that you can have students look at. We use the HIPPO system of analyzing historical context, the intended audience, the purpose, the point of view, and outside information. I don't know if you know about HIPPO, but yeah. Document analysis would work great with the pandemic. You can have a debate. We have different states who all have different rules for the people and businesses who live there. Some states shut down entirely, others practically went on with life as usual. Let's look at some of the facts and look at the different policies and have a debate. Also, federalism. We've got states saying one thing and the national government saying another. This is perfect when you're teaching government and federalism. Use this as the topic. Another huge event this year has been Black Lives Matter movement. And I actually created a couple of lessons, one for the American Revolution, another for the French Revolution. Both of those have very similar causes, and you can definitely tie in the causes of the Black Lives Matter movement with the causes of the American Revolution or the French Revolution. So this is the student handout for the American Revolution. First, we try to decide if Black Lives Matter is a revolution. So that's the do now, and it gets them thinking about revolutions. And then I gave them different documents about both topics, and they needed to write down the causes of each. And then on the second page, they discuss and compare and contrast and make some conclusions. So for instance, the Boston Massacre has the colonists facing off against the British soldiers. Can that be compared to young Black men facing off against police officers? There are definitely correlations. Another idea with the Black Lives Matter movement is, again, a debate, an argumentative essay. Are we headed for another civil war? Studying the causes of the Civil War, then tie in some causes of Black Lives Matter, and you can create some concrete knowledge and connections for the kids. Bring a historical figure into the 21st century. Good old George. If he were alive today, would he be elected president? What job might he hold? What would his reaction to the democracy that is the United States of America today and the Constitution today? So you're teaching the Constitution, you're teaching Washington, you're teaching foreign policy, domestic policy. Do your historical and then bring in at least a smattering of what's going on today to make the connections. The second is get to know your students' interests so you can try to infuse it into your lessons. And I'm sure you've heard this and thought of this also, but it's very effective. I always hand out a getting to know you activity every year at the beginning of the year, finding out what their interests are, because they really do. Every year, my kids have different personalities. I'll have one group. Last year, I had a lot of kids who liked anime, for instance, and this year, not so much. So you can't assume because you knew your kids last year that you know your kids this year. Disney movies. I'm always surprised how much teenagers, 16, 17-year-olds, love Disney movies. And anytime I can tie that into a lesson, and there are a few YouTube videos out there that do that, they're awake. They're into it. Graphic novels. I have several students. I had one student last year. I could never get this kid to close his graphic novel. He was always reading a graphic novel. So when I taught the Iranian Revolution, which is kind of a convoluted revolution to teach and a little confusing, I showed Persepolis, which is not a very long movie, and there's a graphic novel, and the movie is also that same style, and the kids really liked it. Black Panther. I don't know if you've seen this movie. It's great. And the students love it. If you're teaching colonialism, imperialism, you can tie in, watch segments if you don't have time to watch the entire movie. Most students have seen it anyway, but you can definitely tie this into your curriculum. And the third is social media. This is what the kids are connected to 24/7. Let's use it. So I downloaded the TikTok app. And my students are very impressed at that because I'm old, I'm a grandma, okay? But I got TikTok. And not only is there a lot of funny stuff on there, but it's good to see what your students are looking at. And sometimes they'll share things with me, and there are a few things that it's less inappropriate than you would think most of the time. Use a Twitter account. I didn't do it this year, but I did it last year where I created a Twitter account and I communicated with my students. I would tweet them. If there's a project due, sometimes I'd give a shout out to a student who did a really great job on grading essays and someone just did an outstanding job. I'll shoot out a tweet. A lot of the kids joined and it was meeting them where they are. Students can create Facebook and Instagram for historical figures. Now, Facebook is a little, a little old, but some of them are still on it, but Instagram, definitely. And you can use it and tie it into your lessons. If you get permission, at least in my district, you have to get permission to use videos, but you can create a YouTube video and put it on YouTube, even if it's not public, and students love it, or make little TikTok, very short vignettes about whatever topic you're learning about. Finally, you can have your students reach out across the world. There are websites, and these are two of them here, and I know there are more. I just couldn't remember them, honestly. But the Global Classroom and Global Read Aloud brings students from all different countries, from different school districts within the country together to read aloud, as one says, or to do other projects together, and that's pretty awesome. So those are my 3 tips of the day. I hope they were somewhat useful, and many thanks for watching. Until the next video, be well.